Well, I'd never really gone down the whole vaccination narrative, to be honest. I mean, I went to MIT. I trained in engineering, and for me, the science seemed to always make sense. So I was like, yeah, okay, I get my flu shot every year. And it wasn't till I started having some different doctors on, and Bobby Kennedy Jr., and I started actually listening to things they had to say, and started realizing that there are some flaws on how the industry is set up and some of the lack of liability, et cetera. And so I started at least listening to what they had to say. And now that it seems like we're pushing this vaccination everywhere, there's this question of, will there be the mandatory vaccination? Now, I know there probably never has been in history, but mandatory is another funny word, Michael, because what if you want to fly, if you want to go to a ball game, if you want to go to college, then it starts to get a little fuzzy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so actually, Alan Griffiths wrote no up at a podcast saying it is constitutional to mandate vaccine. So you can, I'm not a lawyer, but you can read his arguments about the constitutionality of that. The way the law is, you can get a religious exemption if you want. And so a lot of parents do that. So, but here's the problem. This idea of herd immunity people are talking about now, what this means is that there are some people who want to get vaccinated, but they can't for medical reasons, or they're too young or too old or whatever. And so having almost everybody around you vaccinated protects you, the person who can't get vaccinated. Now, you get a bunch of exemptors who say, oh, I'm not going to, because it's against my religion or against my political beliefs or whatever. Then you breach this herd immunity. Once you reach a certain level where maybe 75% of the people around you are vaccinated, but 25% not, then that increases the risk of the person who wants to be vaccinated but can't, of getting some communicable disease. And they're very probably immunocompromised or in some pre-existing conditions that makes those communicable diseases even more dangerous. So there, the argument I think can be made reasonably from a freedom-loving perspective, that the freedom for you to be free to not vaccinate, infringes on my freedom.